ተመልካቾቻችን እንደምን ሰንብታችኋል? እንግዲህ የዛሬ ፕሮግራም የሄለን ሾው 15ኛ ሲዝን የምንከፍትበት ፕሮግራም ነው። ይዘንላችሁ የቀረብነው ዝግጅት ደግሞ ባለፈው ወር በዋሽንግተን ዲሲ በዋሽንግተን ኮንቬንሽን ሴንተር ውስጥ አዘጋጅተነው የነበረው ኤምፓወር ዘ ኮሚኒቲ ዊኬንድ የሚባለው ፕሮግራማችን ላይ ተሳትፈው የነበሩትን ፓነል ዲስከሽን ነው። እንግዲህ በአሁኑ ሳምንትና በሚቀጥለው ሳምንት ይዘንላችሁ የምንቀርበው እነዚህ ፓነል ዲስከሽኖች የተለያዩ አርስቶችን አንስተን እንማርባቸዋለን፣ እናድግባቸዋለን፣ ወቀትን ጨምርባቸዋለን፣ እንገናኝባቸዋለን ብለን ያሰብናቸውን ሐሳቦች ነው እንግዲህ ውይይት ያደረግንባቸው ነው። የጋበዝናቸው እንግዶች በጣም ትልቅ ስራ የሚሰሩ በዚህ በአሜሪካን ሀገር ኢትዮጵያውያኖች እንደዚሁም ደግሞ ኤርትራን አሜሪካንስ ናቸውና ከነሱ ጋር እንግዲህ በአሁኑ ሳምንትና በሚቀጥለው ሳምንት ቆይታ እናደርጋለን ማለት ነው። እንግዲህ ይህ ዝግጅት እዚህ ሀገር ስለሆነ ሁሉም ሰው ተስማምቶ ተመችቶት መከታተል እንዲችል ብለን ዝግጅቱን ያደረግነው በእንግሊዝኛ ነውና እንግዲህ ከወዲሁ ይቅርታ እየጠየቅኩ ነው ይሄንን ፕሮግራም የምናስተላልፍላችሁ። በዛሬ ፕሮግራማችን የምትመለከቱት ፓነል ዲስከሽን ሊደርሺፕ ላይ በተመለከተ ነው። ጋበዝንላችሁ እንግዳ በዚህ ላይ ዶክተር ሰናይት ፍስሐ፣ ወይዘሮ አልማዝ ነጋሽና ጃጅ ኒና አሸናፊ ሪቻርድሰን ናቸው። እንግዲህ እነዚህ ሴቶች ትልልቅ ስራ የሚሰሩ በየፊልዳቸው ሊደር የሆኑ መሪ የሆኑ ሴቶች ናቸውና እንግዲህ ከህይወታቸው ተመክሮ ከስራቸው ተመክሮ ያካፍሉናል። ከኛ ጋር ቆዩ።
አንድ ጊዜ ሞቅ ያለ ጭብጨባ ለሄለንም big congratulations in organizing this wonderful event, second time running. We look forward to the future. በደንብ አድርጎ እንደሚያድግ እርግጠኛ ነን። በጣም የሚገራርሙ ሶስት ሴቶቻችንን ነው ወደ መድረኩ መጋብዘው። መጀመሪያ በአማርኛ ከዛ በእንግሊዝኛ ያልኩ ቀጥላለሁ። ሙኒት መስፍን እባላለሁ። ለማታውቁኝ ደግሞ ሙዚቀኛም ነኝ። ድሮ ከዚህ በፊትም በባላገሩ ላይ አንዳንድ ጊዜ ስዳኝም ስጫወትም ሰምታችሁንም ሊሆን ይችላል። መጀመሪያ መጋብዘው ወደ መድረክ ዶክተር ሰናይት ፍስሐን ነው። የኦብስቴትሪክስ እና ጋይኖኮሎጂ ፕሮፌሰር ናት and Doctor of International Programs at the Susan T. Buffett Foundation. ስለሷም ብዙ ነገር ከሷ አንደበት እንሰማለን። Please welcome Dr. Sanait Fissaha, who is the professor of obstetrics and gynecology and the director of international programs at the Susan T. Buffett Foundation. ከዛ በመቀጠል መጋብዘው ወይዘሮ አልማዝ ነጋሽን ይሆናል, who is the founder እና executive director of African Diaspora Network. እና ሞቅ ያለ ጭብጨባ ለወይዘሮ አልማዝ ነጋሽ, who is the founder and executive director of African Diaspora Network. ከዌስት ኮስት ነው የመጡልን። ስለዚህ እናመሰግናለን ስለመጡ። እና finally ደግሞ last but not least we have Judge Nina አሸናፊ ሪቻርድሰን, የሊዮን ካውንቲ ጀጅ በ2008 እና እንደገና በ2014 ከፍሎሪዳ የመጡ. One of the first. She has many firsts that I'm sure that Helen is going to let us know about. Please welcome Judge Nina Ashanafi Richardson from Leon County in Florida. I believe Tallahassee. ስለዚህ እነዚህን ሴቶቻችን እንደገና ሞቅ ያለ ጭብጨባ ለሶስቱም before we start. Helen ደግሞ አለች, of course our host, our moderator. እና መድረኩን ላንቺ ተውልሻለሁ. Enjoy.
Thank you. Ladies, እንግዲህ I'm going to have to preface it by saying I know we have millions of viewers that are going to be looking at this or following us today on this program live from Ethiopia. But I do want to say this conversation is going to be in English because we want to make sure we accommodate everybody. I know Sanniye speaks fluent Amharic, ችግር የለም። ወይዘሮ አልማዝ ደግሞ she's Eritrean American and she አማርኛ በጣም ሞክራለሁ ብላኛለች, ግን for the purpose of this conversation we're going to do it in English. The same with Judge Ashanafi. She's been here many years and English is really the preferred conversation ዛሬ የምናካሂበትና ስለዚህ ፕሮግራማችንን አሁን እንጀምራለን. I am so proud and so honored to share this presence with all of you. Many of you have accomplished so much and I think the introduction actually doesn't even do its service. And if you all want to go to our website, you can look at their profile. And so I'm thrilled, I'm honored that you took time out from your super busy. I know you all travel quite a bit from that schedule to be here with us and to share your knowledge not only with people that are here in this conference, but also live for many millions more in Ethiopia. So Dr. Sanait, I'm going to start with you. This conversation is really about, we called it Phenomenal Women because it's a journey where how you got to where you got. It's not a one-day process. It's many years of hard work on your behalf. And so we want to start just, from the premise and say, okay, how did you get into the industry that you're in? and where you are today. I know it's a long journey, but if just briefly so that our audiences get to know you, if you can tell us a little bit about what you do right now, but then how you got into medicine and women's health and all of that.
Well, first of all, thank you to Helen, the Helen Show, and this event. It's incredible to see our own community led by a brilliant woman putting all of us together. And I think for me, the importance is just not the networking among professionals, but also the opportunity for young people to connect and to look up to people in their own communities who have achieved maybe some of the things they're aspiring for. So I'm really grateful for the opportunity. So to start briefly, I was born and raised in Ethiopia. I came here right after high school. In fact, when I was in Ethiopia, I was accepted to medical school and attended short of a semester. Knew very early on that I wanted to go into women's health and medicine, and I don't know whether it was shaped by the fact that in Ethiopia, if you're a decent student and if you had scored very well in your national matriculation exam, you went to medicine. So it may have started from that, but I was very curious and I was very interested in discovery. So once I moved to the US, went into undergrad, studied biochemistry, knew I wanted to go into research, particularly around breast cancer research, and I was very fortunate very early on to receive a Howard Hughes grant and spent a summer in Michigan looking at breast immunology, breast cancer research. Two good things came out of that. One was the decision to not pursue a career in research. I discovered that probably wasn't that for me, but I also met my future husband. He was a resident in urology at Wayne State University, and he really became, I was very happy to meet another Ethiopian, a compatriot in medicine, but he really became a friend, a mentor, and a guidance. And for me, I was at this bifurcation where I wanted to do MD, PhD, and potentially get into research, but this was also the time where the Clintons were being elected, and healthcare reform was really big on the agenda, tort reform. So I was leaning towards law as well. So I was able to get guidance and went and did a combined MD-JD training where I went to medical school and law school simultaneously. It was a little long in terms
Sure.
of when I look at my training. I think after high school, I was in school for about 17 years. So when my kids and I talk, I have 4 children, by the way, and I talk to them about careers and what it means, they always say, Mom, we're not going to be in school for 17 years. That's the first thing I hear. And I say to them, you know, we live in an era where your jobs may not even be out there, right? So for me, I really try to be intentional around young people. Instead of focusing on what they want to be, I think they should focus on what they want to do, because there are so many ways to get to what you want to do. And for me, the thing that got me out of bed was women's health, and especially the health of women in Ethiopia and around the developing world, where a lot of mothers die from preventable deaths, like in childbirth. I mean, for us to accept the death of a woman while she's trying to bring life into this world is something I just could not reconcile. So for me, whether I went to medical school or law school or business school or didn't go to school, I knew my passion was around women's health, broader reproductive health, deep in the belief that I have that women have the right to control their body and their future. And I strongly felt like if women did not have, and girls did not have the fundamental right, basic bodily autonomy to decide when to get married, when not to get married, when to have children, when not to have children, they cannot have much more stake at the broader community.
That's true.
So for me, that's sort of the shorter version of my path. So I finished my residency, went to fellowship. I'm a reproductive endocrinologist by training. I do in vitro fertilization, helping women who cannot get pregnant. But in the last 3 to 4 years, I have really begun to focus on public health, expanding sexual and reproductive health and rights. And after a circuitous journey, I've also now landed at a job where I'm a full professor at the University of Michigan, but I've taken a position at the Buffett Foundation where I oversee our international grant making in women's health in over 61 countries. So a long and circuitous path, but my single message to you is if you sort of figure out what you want to do and not necessarily what you want to be, you'll find a way to get there. Because oftentimes we push young people to determine what they want to be. I want to be a doctor, a lawyer, a president, a judge. And then when they get there, they don't have a plan. And we see this even in our leaders who get elected to run political office. They get there and they don't have a plan. So I think if we can stir young people around what they want to do, what kind of impact do you want to bring, that shapes their path a little easier.
That's great.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Almaz, let me come to you. That's great.
Very good. The same question?
Yes, the same question. Tell us about your journey, how you got to, I mean, you're currently African Diaspora Network connects the business community with Africa, but your journey was a much wider, long-winded journey to where you at. So tell us a little bit about that.
But first of all, let me just say how beautiful this woman is. I saw her on Thursday for the first time. I'm like, my God, she is beautiful. So thank you for bringing our people together. And I'm very delighted to be with all of you. Yes, I grew up in Asmara, Eritrea. I went to high school with all boys. I went point 4. So if there is anyone from Eritrea and you don't know point 4, you better check it out. It's a technical school where all boys go and women were never allowed to go. So I was lucky. I think I probably was one of that year. They take only 120 students out of the entire country. And most of them are boys because the assumption was that women, we were not good in math or we couldn't compete in many different things. So whenever you say to me, I can't do it, I just do it. So I was actually in a classroom of 39 boys and 1 girl the first year. And I used to remember, so what shapes you in your life? I think you have to have these events. For me, besides the encouragement and the joy and love of my family, I think my classmates in high school completely transformed me as a woman and as a human being. Because I think the fact that I was competing with boys who have had the privilege to be known as they're the best of this, the best of that, and I ended up learning how to work with them, learn with them, and it really completely transformed everything I've done afterwards. I came after I finished high school. I went to the Netherlands. I studied in Holland for 3.5 years, but I'm very impatient. I couldn't handle the Dutch. So I said the Dutch language, not the Dutch people. I love the Dutch people. The language was just pulling me down. And I asked my wonderful brother, older brother who works at KLM, you got to get me to the United States. He had a girlfriend here. So you were going there all the time. Why don't you just help me to get there? And I have been very blessed. I went to University of San Francisco, got my bachelor's degree at USF in international business. And then I met my husband and my best friend in San Francisco, also Eritrean, but absolutely my backbone. And for women, for many of us, Habesha, to do what I am doing, you must have someone who believes in you. For me, it's my husband who believes in me, as many other people who believed in me also earlier before him. But I am very grateful to him and to our 2 children. I also have wonderful friends along the way that I've met. But in terms of studying, I've always loved to learn. And then after I got married, I did a lot of international travel. The first international trade trip I did to Ethiopia and Eritrea was in 1996. I took the first American delegation in collaboration with Corporate Council for Africa. So when I went to Ethiopia in 1996, Hilton was the biggest hotel. And I was able to stay there and be able to meet the Prime Minister at the time and the trade ministers at the time. It was a beautiful time for Eritrea and Ethiopia as well, because I first went to Eritrea and then we took the delegation to Ethiopia. Why am I telling you this? Because in 1998, so many different things happened, and Eritrea and Ethiopia were absolutely, completely separated for many, many years. And then just to fast forward, I was in Ethiopia in June of this last June, and the transformation I have seen in Ethiopia within 24 years or 26 years, I think, 24 years was amazing, incredible. And so I am able to see what changes have come. And so my journey has been from international trade to higher education. I was the global leadership and ethics leader director at Santa Clara University, a Jesuit university. I went to USF, but that's another Jesuit university. And Santa Clara University, I have had the greatest privilege of working with former heads of states from around the world to help them understand how to actually make a difference in HIV/AIDS, education, healthcare, and all the different things that our doctor sister was talking about. And it has really also helped me to understand not only the problem that happens in other parts of the world, but also in the community where I was living in Silicon Valley. So in Silicon Valley, one of the richest regions in the world, 25% of the population cannot make ends meet. It's crazy. So a woman from Eritrea, from one of the poorest countries in the world, actually had the privilege of working and running an amazing social innovation network called Step Up Silicon Valley, where I was able to develop with a bunch of other people, brilliant people from the business, technology, high school, education, higher education, and the nonprofits. I've been able to put them together for the last 8 years to create programs that are very impactful, and one of my greatest delight is the social impact bond that we put together a few years ago. Why do I tell you that? Because I think poverty is everywhere. It is not only in Africa, it also happens in the community in which we live. So as a diaspora, I always believe that we have a responsibility to the community where we live, as well as to the continent where we came from. It is not a zero-sum game. We just have to do both, and we have to figure it out. Because you can't say, I'm going to do everything to Ethiopia and let these people down. You can't do that. I think we need to do what you guys are all doing here, this whole information that's happening here. I think it's very critical. And so for those of you who are trying and interested in doing social change work, I can tell you that path doesn't come easily. You just have to go through the journey, and somehow you are geared toward that. So I actually, a woman with an MBA, I always feel sorry for my husband that I was supposed to make a lot of money. I ended up saying, no, actually, I love what I'm doing now. And then in parallel, I founded the African Diaspora Network. Is a network of Africans and Friends of Africa in Silicon Valley. And I've had the greatest privilege with my friend Nettie yesterday, where we hosted many of you from Washington, D.C. I thank this community. I think whenever I come to D.C., I feel at home because there's so many Habesha, many of you. And I think you have a lot of role models to make a big difference in your life and the lives of other people. And I'm very privileged to be with all of you, but my journey is a little bit different. But one thing I want to say is I am very grateful for the opportunity to work with people of diverse background and mindset, and I love solving complex problems that very few people want to touch it, but for me it's an excitement, it's a wonderful thing, and I don't solve it. The reason I don't solve it is because I have a lot of people I can tap into their knowledge, because one person cannot do everything, but I think collectively you'll be amazed at the solution that comes. So I am very happy to be with all of you today, and I look forward to more discussion.
Wonderful. Thank you, Almaz. That's great. ሰላም ተመልካቾቻችን እንግዲህ ከረፍት ቆይታችን ተመልሰናል። እንግዲህ አሁን እየተከታተላችሁት ያላችሁት Empower the Community Weekend ላይ ተዘጋጅቶ የነበረውን ሊደርሺፕ ላይ ያተኮረውን ፓነል ዲስከሽን ነው። ዶክተር ሰናይት ፍስሐ፣ ጃጅ ኒና አሸናፊ ሪቻርድሰን እና ወይዘሮ አልማሽ ነጋሽ ናቸው በዚህ ፓነል ላይ ዲስከስ የሚያደርጉት ያሉት። እስቲ ወደ ቆይታው ልሰዳችሁ። Different backgrounds, obviously, and different experiences. Let me come to Judge Ashanafi. Tell us a little bit about your background and what you do right now in Florida. You've been twice elected, many firsts in your journey. Tell us a little bit about that.
Okay. So, Helen, first I want to echo what my fellow panelists have said. Thank you so much for organizing such an amazing event. This is the second year, I understand. And to all of you, I am so happy to be here. I flew from Tallahassee, Florida. Tallahassee is located in the panhandle of Florida. It's the capital. And I was so honored to be invited by Helen. She's such a visionary to pull us all together so we can meet each other and connect. So I was born in Addis Ababa, and my father is Dr. Ashanafi Kabeda. He has passed, but he was the founder of the Yared School of Music. The Yared School of Music is still standing and is still educating young Ethiopians. I'm very honored that it is. Also, my father was the composer of the Shepherd Flutist for the young people that are in this room. Yes.
That is amazing.
So for the young people in the room, you know, you can hear my father's composition if you go to YouTube and you type in Shepherd Flutist. It's a beautiful piece, but my father passed away when he was 60. It was not easy. He came to the US and was a professor of ethnomusicology, and he taught about Ethiopian music and culture all over. He taught at Brandeis, he taught at Queens College, and then finally at Florida State University for 18 years. So that's what brought me to the United States. My mother did not like living here because of the issues of segregation. In the 60s, it was very difficult for her. My mother is Eleni Gabrameskel. She went back to Ethiopia, and after that, they divorced. So I have lived in the US with my father raising me as a single father. It was not easy for him. All of our family still in Addis. My sister is also in the US. My sister for years was on a soap opera called General Hospital. Her name is Sanait Ashinafi, and she was one of the first Ethiopians that kind of made it in the media, if you will, and she was a celebrity. Now she lives back in Tallahassee with me. She has her own place, but I love that my only living family member is now in Tallahassee. But my story is one of so many of you, where we come from Ethiopia. We have to make our way. I worked my way through college because I didn't want my father to have the burden of paying for my education, because he still had my younger sister. So I worked my way through college, and all the young people that I see here, you're probably going to have it easier because your parents are going to try to make it easy for you. But so many of us Ethiopians, we had to really pull ourselves up. And the story of the immigrant, like all of us, is that we can do it, we can make it. We have this inner strength and integrity and work ethic that is beyond, and I'm very proud of that. That is that Ethiopian strength that is in all of us, is inside of me, and I am so blessed by it because it got me through 3 years of law school. I worked my way through law school as well, got out of law school, paid my way through everything, paid my student loans off. And my father is the strength. You know, I drew my strength from seeing my father. For instance, he wrote his doctorate in English, which was his second language. So I saw how hard he worked. I saw how hard he worked as a single parent. I saw how hard he worked as an educator in a country that was not very welcoming at the time for us. They weren't used to seeing people from East Africa. They felt we were strange and different. But I saw how in response he was always loving, he was always kind, he was always welcoming, he was always trying to show people that we're actually one, we're not so different, through his teaching, through his practice. So much of my father's upbringing and my Ethiopian background is still in me. I still have it, even though you can tell by my accent. I worked very hard at not having an accent, because when my father had an accent, he faced discrimination. It was not easy for him in the US because it was made difficult for him because he was from somewhere else. So I said to myself when I was a young person, I am going to speak in a way where no one can tell that I'm from somewhere else, because I don't want to have people, I wanted everyone to just not judge me. I wanted the Americans around me to accept me, and I noticed that if I, especially with the language, if I blended in, it would be easier, and it was, because now no one can figure out where I am. But as I've gotten older, I credit so much our culture. I credit so much the beauty of our culture and our ability to adapt. Ethiopians, we are so adaptable. We are so welcoming. We're so kind. And those are cultural attributes that the older I get, I value more and more. And to be in such a room with so many beautiful Ethiopians, I can't tell you how lifted up I am, how happy I am to see all of you. So in Tallahassee, I was elected to be judge. I love Tallahassee. It's a very conservative town. There are not too many Ethiopians there. But guess what? My community, they voted for me, even though I am from somewhere else, even though I look different from most of the people in Tallahassee. They're not I think there may be 30 Ethiopians in Tallahassee. I help as many as I can. In Tallahassee, we have Ethiopian business owners. We have several lawyers that are from Ethiopia. We have one Ethiopian that he owns his own firm and is very, very successful. And we help each other. We're a wonderful community. They pick on me because they want me to speak my language more than I do. But we have a very strong Ethiopian community. In Tallahassee is FAMU. It's a historically black university, and we have a lot of Ethiopians that come through FAMU to get their education. We also have Florida State University, and we have several, again, Ethiopian students that are there, and I try to support. They always call me. I'm the Ethiopian in Tallahassee, so I try to support as many Ethiopians that come through North Florida as possible, and I enjoy it. Being elected was an honor for me because what it showed me was when you treat people with dignity and respect, even if you look alike, even if you don't look alike, if your skin color is different, your culture is different, but you treat people with dignity and respect, and you are kind, and you're compassionate, then guess what? That's what comes back to you, because I have been the recipient of a welcoming community, a community that continues to encourage me, lift me up, and as judge, I was re-elected without opposition, so I took that as a sign that I must be doing okay. And I love being a judge, and I've been informed by many Ethiopian leaders that I'm the first elected Ethiopian in the United States. I look forward to seeing many more of you to be, and I'm looking at the young people, I'm looking forward to not being the first. I want you to follow, and if there's anybody out there that wants to be a lawyer or a judge, you call me, you email me. Anything I can do to be helpful to you, any way that I can tell you or more of my story. But you know, the bottom line is you can do it. Look at our community. We're all about working hard and educating ourselves in whatever arena and moving forward in a positive way. Look at Helen and what she's accomplished. So our story, the Ethiopian story, is that. It's in you. You can do it. Connect. That's why we're here, and I want to be part of that connection.
That's great. Wonderful. So let me ask, all three of you are leaders in your respective fields, okay? So I kind of want to put leadership in a context of your own careers. How do you see leadership? We have a lot of people that are aspiring to be leaders in their respective fields, whatever that may be. So how do you define leadership? What does leadership mean to you? And I'll start with Sandy.
So for me, leadership means not being at the front. And I will tell you why I say that. I have been working back and forth despite my young look. My looks can be deceiving. I've been going back and forth to Ethiopia since my medical school year. I graduated in '99 and almost 20 years. And the first, I would say maybe 15 years, I've been going back and building a network of communities in the medical field, physicians, nurses, midwives, folks at the health ministry. I started my work, in fact, in northern Ethiopia when the former health minister, Dr. Tedros, was a regional health bureau in Tigray, and Hawassa when Dr. Shifarao, who subsequently became the environment and education minister, was the health bureau chief. I was working in Addis, and all these years, one of the things I've learned is that leadership means identifying and supporting people who are actually doing the work and creating an enabling environment for them. For many people, they think leadership means being at the front, and it's not. And in fact, many folks will ask me, oh my goodness, you've been so successful going back and forth in Ethiopia, like in the last 5 years. And you know our community is so sensitized and so politicized, and especially the last decade also, so ethnically divided. So I will get stories like, oh, you're Tigray, that's why they're making things simple for you. And I will say, no, I'm Gurage, but it doesn't matter, I'm Ethiopian, right? No, they're not making things easy for me. They're making things for me because I'm delivering, right? I have never been looking for a stage for me, a mother in northern Ethiopia or southern Ethiopia, or in Rwanda for that matter, or in Kenya, or as our sister said, in Tallahassee in Mississippi, has the same value as all of you in this room. So what I have tried to do in the last 20 years is stay outside of the politics and also stay outside of being at the front and invest a lot of time and energy in identifying young talent, especially young physicians, young nurses, and creating an enabling environment for them so that they can thrive. Because at the end of the day, they are doing the hard work. They are the unsung heroes who are day in and day out, whether they have resources or not, whether there are commodities or not, whether they have supplies or not, show up at the clinics to see patients, right? So my job was being behind the scene and getting them the support they needed, whether it's building capacity at the medical schools or working at the ministry or networking or taking donors. It was really figuring out. So I think to be a real leader, it requires being comfortable to be in the background and really basking in the limelight when the light shines on others. So for me, that's really fundamental.
It's great. ሰላም ተመልካቾቻችን እንግዲህ ከረፍት ቆይታችን ተመልሰናል እንግዲህ አሁን እየተከታተላችሁት ያላችሁት empower the community weekend ላይ ተዘጋጅቶ የነበረውን leadership ላይ ያተኮረውን panel discussion ነው ዶክተር ሰናይት ፍስሐ ጃጅ ኒና አሸናፊ ሪቻርድሰን እና ወይዘሮ አልማሽ ነጋሽ ናቸው በዚህ panel ላይ ዲስከስ የሚያደርጉት ያሉት እስቲ ወደ ቆይታው ልሰዳችሁ አልማዝ how would you define leadership
So I think that was beautiful. I am a leader in service. I love the whole idea of servicing society and humanity. So my tremendous joy and happiness comes when I connect an African entrepreneur with an investor, or a young woman who's looking for an opportunity or a job in Silicon Valley, and I will say, you know, I don't know what the answer is, but let me see what I can do for you. I think I am more of a believer that to be a leader, you don't say that I am a leader. I think you have to earn it that you are actually a leader. And there is this notion that, oh, I'm at the head of the helm and you should respect me. Respect is earned. And I do believe leadership is earned. If you ask me from our African leaders what I think of them, that will be a big discussion. Because a leader is like your parent. You know, a good mother or a father, they first feed their children before they feed for themselves. As a mother, my job is to make sure that my kids are protected and supported. I would like to see that being the leadership. As a leader, like what our doctor was saying here, is that you try to enrich and make sure that you open the door for other people. You cannot just sit in your sofa or your chair and say, you do what I tell you to do. That is not leadership for me. Leadership for me is leadership in service, to be in service of humanity, to be in service of each other. And if I know what to do and if I can help you and guide you to be where you need to be, I have done something good. It may not be everything, but at least I contributed to that. So, and the other thing on leadership is, I think it is a lifetime work. Because we are human beings, we always make mistakes. There are times when we fail, there are times when we succeed. Failure is not bad at all. Actually, I learned so much from the failures I've made in my life, not from the successes, because success is wonderful, you can enjoy that. But the failures are what tells me, that guides me of what to do next. And I do encourage all of you, our young Ethiopians, Eritreans, and others from other parts of the world. I really think we have been told not to fail, and we're very fearful of failure. I do encourage you to just absolutely fail and fail fast and fail forward. Because it will happen. When it happens, somebody will pick you up, or you first pick up yourself, and other people will help you along the way. I think one other thing I want to say is, we need to figure out to help each other. We just have to figure that out. And for me, what I do under the African Diaspora Network, it fills my heart like you've never seen. I am extremely a joyful woman when I see people connect and make something happen for each other. What Helen is doing is not for you to figure out what she can do for you. Actually, what she's doing is she's giving you this platform so you can use it to network, know each other, and do something, and really, at the end of the day, support each other. As immigrants, I think one thing we can all do is get out of our, you know, this ethnicity. First of all, it doesn't work for me. That's why I run Africa Diaspora Network. We have created a barrier in our mind or an imagination that if I am an Eritrean, I can only do this with Eritreans. If I am an Ethiopian, I must be a very special person. So I can only, we're not that special. We're just human beings. And I actually love and thrive to see when Africans come together, connect with each other, and do something very, very good for the continent as a whole. When you see an intra-Africa dialogue, intra-Africa connection, what happens? Our economy and our people thrive. I think when she is doing work in Rwanda, and if it's in Tigray, who cares where it is as long as she's helping people? I think we need to get into that kind of mindset. Otherwise, we're going to be stuck in this thinking, oh, I'm an Ethiopian, I'm very special. I'm an Eritrean, we are amazing in that. I don't think we are that special. We're just human beings. We just have to care about other people who may not look like us, may not have the same language as we speak, or maybe even a background that we have. I think we need to be humble and accepting. Because as an Eritrean myself, I have been told we were special. I am sorry. I found out actually I'm not that big a deal, and we're not. And so I encourage you to get out of your comfort zone, reach out to your Nigerian, Ghanaian, Kenyan, and Rwandans and other friends, and you'll be amazed how much you will be enriched. For me, that is leadership. Getting out of my comfort zone and being a part of other community gives me the greatest joy, and I hope you do the same thing.
Yeah. Good. Judge Nina, how do you see leadership in the context of your job? And then how do you overall define leadership? What does that mean to you?
Okay. So it's a complicated question because, so the question is, how does leadership apply, you know, when in serving as a judge, every day I have to make decisions that will impact someone's life. I could put them, I could sentence them to jail for a very long time. So the role that I'm in, I have to be very prayerful. Every morning I ask God to order my steps, to order the words that come out of my mouth. So I want to be a fair and deliberate judge who cares about people. My life experience does help me to do my job in that I can, when I see people that are suffering, usually when you see people in court, they have many, many issues, very many issues that may involve poverty, mental health issues, drug and alcohol issues, health issues, and you know, there's so many reasons why individuals you know, commit crimes, and there are many reasons people come to court to sue each other. So it's complicated, but I love what I do. I love the rule of law. I love I take it seriously what I do because part of my job is to keep my community safe. As a judge, it is very important that when I make decisions, I think, how is this person going to affect my community? Is this person going to have an adverse impact if I let them out? I also preside over civil cases, which are lawsuits involving money, and I also preside over felony drug court. So in drug court, of course, the issues are drug-related. These issues impact everyone, whether you're from East Africa or whether you're from, you know, in court, all shades of skin color are present. So again, I love what I do. So leadership in that sense means that I'm going to be learned in the law. I'm going to know what I'm doing. I teach. I also teach all over I teach at Advanced Judicial College. So education continues to be important to me, something drilled into me by my father. I am a lifelong learner. So leadership means always being a lifelong learner, never stopping. And just because I do what I do doesn't mean I have to stop educating myself. I have to keep on top of the law. I write a lot, I speak a lot, I teach a lot because it keeps me fresh, it keeps me sensitive, and it allows me to be the best judge that I can be. But on another level, leadership also means getting out in my community. I am so blessed to be in a country where I am living all of the dreams of my father. However, I have an obligation to pay that forward. So we are all here living in a country that has given us so much, and we must in turn do as much for our children, but not only our children, but all children. So on the other side, leadership means getting involved in your community, helping the poor, helping those who are needy. Whatever your calling is, God will tell you what your purpose is, and being fulfilling of your purpose, whatever that purpose is. But we must always pay it forward. We have to, we're on the shoulders of so many that sacrifice for us, so many family members that sacrifice for us. So leadership means finding your purpose, finding your calling, and being true to it, and always having others in your heart to help them, because if not, what good is it? We want other people to live the dream that we are so blessed to live today.
That's great. So I want to ask about confidence. This is very personal to me because this isn't something that I've experienced when I first came to the US and I started my career in the industry that I'm in. I think the way we were raised, especially as women in Ethiopia, that confidence, maybe not in every family, but in most families, confidence isn't really built in us. And so we start our careers or we start our educational journey and we get to a point where lack of confidence pulls us back from where we could go, from what we could achieve. So I wanted to ask, what skills specifically that you think might help us to look at ourselves and feel confident about the decisions that we are about to take, and how do we build confidence to be able to take on leadership roles or even just advance in whatever that we're doing. Let's just talk about confidence and leadership.
Yeah, so that's a complex and very loaded question, especially in the context of women, especially in the context of women in our culture, right? We grow up in a culture where we are told, ዝምታ ወርቅ ነው, ዝም ባለ አፍ ውስጥ ዝም ባይገባም. I'm sorry, I'm in a few with Harry course, but እኔ አሁን ሳድግ በጣም ፈጣንና በጣም ሯጭና በጣም ተናጋሪ ስለነበርኩኝ እናቴ ያለች እዛ ጋር ክራውድ ውስጥ እባክሽ ልጄ ባል አታገኝም እንደዚህ ከሆንሽ ወይም አንቺ ሚስት ነው የሚያስፈልግሽ ባል አይደለም. So which means the rhetoric, that is social norm, right? That's the social construct, is that if you're a woman and if you are self-assured and if you are confident, and I come from a family of 10 children. I mean, like, my family's life story is a topic on its own, but I have an incredible family. And for me, the confidence in me and my sisters really came from our father, who really believed in his children. So for the men and boys out in the crowd, I will say, don't underestimate the role you play in shaping your daughters and your sisters and the girls in the community. Because I was not hammered as a child. I was given the opportunity to express myself, to be articulate, to demand, to question, and that behavior was not discouraged. Having said that, not everybody is going to have that opportunity, right? There are people who come from single-family homes where there are no men in their lives, or they have, although they have an ideal environment at home, they go to school and they are broken. So I think the question really gets at, especially for the younger people in the audience, how are you going to build your self-confidence so that you are not undermined, or you're not passed at the next job interview, or you're not given big responsibility at your job because somebody thinks you don't have the capacity. And I really think those are things that you can learn, one can learn. Platforms like this is where you start. Networking, finding mentors. I mean, I cannot tell you the number of mentors I have, and my colleagues have pointed this out, my fellow panelists, that you should never be complacent when you get to a certain stage. There is always room for growth. So for me, I always have mentors. I have women mentors, I have spiritual mentors, I have professional mentors, I have just girls that I just hang out with, I have mothers. So I look at my circle and I say, where do I draw energy from? Where do I draw guidance from? Where do I remember very early on, for example, when I started, one of my biggest fear was, despite growing up being very confident, I never had a platform to speak to large crowds. And I remember I finished high school and I was my valedictorian among 2 other girls, and I had to give commencement speech. And I still remember my body trembling. That's a very normal physiologic response that every human being goes through, right? But most of us feel like, oh, I have nervous breakdown, I can't get on the stage, and really don't realize there are tools and skills one can develop to be very comfortable as a public speaker. So a lot of it starts with identifying mentors. I cannot stress enough how important it is to have mentors. You know, I have a plaque in my office that says a mentor is someone who makes their hindsight your foresight. You learn from their mistakes. You learn from the steps they have taken. So for me, my husband became one of those people. When I met him, he will coach me, he will guide me, he will help me practice my speeches in front of him. If I'm making a decision like a job offer, I will sit down and go through with him about what asks should I put forth. I don't want to appear over demanding, but I don't want to undersell myself. So I cannot really, if you take one message from today, identify mentors, and they don't have to be formal. It could be folks that you meet at church, mosques, in your communities, at the Ethiopian community centers. So many people, when I look across the room today, have reached out to me in some venue as friends on social media. They want to know what was my path like? How did I start speaking? How did I build a large follower? So really take advantage of the people that are sitting next to you, greet each other. I think Ethiopians, Eritreans, Africans in general, we're very good lifting each other up within our family. When I look at why did I get where I got here, like my sister and my mother are sitting there, my family sacrificed so much. And unlike you, Judge Ashanafi, I took full advantage of my family's support. So when I got here, I knew I wanted to finish school. I was very hyper-focused, but my family pulled in. They did not have the resources. They were working 2 jobs, but they said, we see your potential. We don't want you to get distracted. We want you to go to school. So they paid my college tuition for a semester, and then I was able to get a scholarship for the rest of it. But we're not very good pulling each other as a community.
That's true.
When you see what happens in the Indian community, when you see what happens in the Jewish community, we are not very good pulling each other up. You know, everywhere I go, whether it's at the University of Michigan, when I move, I don't bring not qualified people, but I identify qualified Ethiopians, and as much as I can, try to create opportunities, networking, opportunity to interview, to just put them in front. If you give them the chance to sit there, they will make it on their own. But we're not very good at that. I'm sorry to say this. As a community, we have to do much, much better pulling each other. In fact, we really are very good at pulling each other down, using social media inappropriately to attack each other, to target people. I don't know where this destructive culture came from, but I really think we can turn that around, and this is going to be the community that can change that. So I really say, in terms of confidence building, honing your skill, turn to the person next to you, to your right and to your left. Immediately you leave with 2 mentors. And you may look at them and say, oh, they're not as qualified or less qualified. You will be amazed. Most of my wisdom in life comes from people mostly who have not even had formal education, like my mother. She did not go to college, but I've learned most of my life's wisdom from her. So don't underestimate people who can mentor you.
That's true.
Thank you.
That's excellent. ሰላም ተመልካቾቻችን፣ እንግዲህ ከረፍት ቆይታችን ተመልሰናል። እንግዲህ አሁን እየተከታተላችሁት ያላችሁት Empower the Community Weekend ላይ ተዘጋጅቶ የነበረውን ሊደርሺፕ ላይ ያተኮረውን ፓነል ዲስከሽን ነው። ዶክተር ሰናይት ፍስሐ፣ ጃጅ ኒና አሸናፊ ሪቻርድሰን እና ወይዘሮ አልማሽ ነጋሽ ናቸው በዚህ ፓነል ላይ ዲስከስ የሚያደርጉት ያሉት። እስቲ ወደ ቆይታው ልሰዳችሁ።
Excellent point. So how do you build confidence, Almaz? You know, if you're, especially think about a lot of us that grew up in Ethiopia who didn't really get the support that we really needed. How do we build? What are certain skill sets that we need to develop to become, you know, to have full confidence?
Really, I agree with what Dr. was saying, and I think it is confidence, especially for women, it's not that easy. But I have to tell you, I'm a very lucky girl. I'm number 7 of 8 children. I was also very talkative, but I loved school. I used school as my sense of escape from reality. I really, really studied hard. I was very good in school from my childhood, early on, from first grade all the way. And I was so good at competing with the guys. And if you are number one and you're kidding me, I will fight with you. I really did that early on. I believe, really truly believe, my confidence started at home because nobody ever said to me, don't say anything. I mean, they gave up. My mother gave up on me. My father just absolutely adored me. But my mother was a very quiet presence, beautiful woman. And she would say, oh my God, what is she gonna be? So anyway, that went away. So my confidence started there. I was given the privilege that probably my other sisters did not have. Some of them got married at the age of 18, which is required. And so personally, I did not want to be what my sister's future was for them. It was already set up for them to get married at a certain age. And I remember my mother asking me when I was 13 years old, my sister was getting married, the last one. And she said, she was putting money together. You know, one thing that I really hated was gazmi. What is it called, the gazmi in Amharic? A dowry. And I'm like, are you kidding me? You're giving your children and you're giving the money to the man. And so she said, oh, Almaz, when you get married, right? I will make sure your money is going, it will be more. And I looked at her and I said, I never forget this. The man who marries me will give you money. So anyway, my husband didn't give her money, nor did she give us money, because I ended up getting married in San Francisco. What I'm trying to tell you is that I have had also the greatest privilege to go to school with boys, and my confidence level really, I think, started there because you have to fight, and I'm a fighter, so I kept really working on that. But eventually, though, it is the people I met in my life and through my journey. I have an amazing spiritual leader whom I go to every time I need her. I have friends I can pull my energy from, and when I'm down, I can talk to them. But the very person who make my life so beautiful and so easy is my own husband. And what I'm trying to say is there is that lack of confidence comes. All of us have a time when we feel, oh my God, did I make the right decision? Especially when it comes on decision, it is the hardest thing to do. You know your heart tells you to do it, but then the brain goes on and on. Oh my God, do I need to do this investment or that investment? Or my son, should he go there? My daughter, my beautiful daughter, what am I going to do with them? You know what? I really think that whatever decision we made at that moment was the right decision. We can always change our mind, but for that moment, it was the right decision. But there are times also when we are absolutely, I don't know about you, when I'm absolutely unable to make a decision, because it's a very difficult decision. It's what Judge goes through every single day, which luckily I don't go through because I would make a mess of myself. What I think happens to that is I go to my friends. I have an amazing friends in Silicon Valley. I can go to them and let's go have to dinner and we can cry, we can talk. And I think those things are very important. Have a support group in your life. And one thing, trust people. Take them at face value. Don't be skeptical, because the minute you are skeptical, the person is already skeptical. So I think you just have to create that, and it's a journey. It's not easy. It doesn't come easily for all of us, but confidence is built over time, and by making ourselves always learning, it will make a big difference in our life. I still learn. I am an executive in residence at San Jose State University right now. Very privileged to have this position, and I'm creating a fellowship program that is going to help low-income college students to go on to immersion programs, and I'm trying to see that they go to Kenya first. You see, if you're an African, what do? You try to take them. Why is that important? To those of you who are in college, if you happen to have parents who are paying something for you, are the luckiest kid. But if you are not the person who has the money, you're pretty much suffering because you're working and then you're going to college. You never had an opportunity to go for an overseas education. I think this is something, don't take it for granted if you already have it. If you don't have it, there is a way to do it. And I am very privileged to have that 10 hours per week of my life where I start to stimulate my mind and figure out how can I make these kids go to a different part of the world so they can learn. So I think it's how we use our time, and our confidence grows as we learn more, as we trust more.
Okay. Judge Nia, how do you develop confidence?
So I have to tell you that I was so not confident growing up. So when I was in high school, for instance, I just saw myself as the ugly duckling. I just did not think of myself very beautiful. I was very smart, but not beautiful. So so I'm now in my 50s, so I've come a long way on the question of confidence. But when I was in high school, that was when I first realized that I'm an other, that I was looked at as an other. I don't know why. Before then, it didn't really occur to me because I just loved everybody, and it didn't matter where my friends came from. But then all of a sudden in high school, for instance, by example, some of the boys used to say, oh, look at her, she has googly eyes, because you know us Ethiopians, right, we have large eyes. And so I have very large eyes, that's you know, my heritage. But I was picked on for it. So because my features were different, I was picked on. I have a very small nose and little lips, and so I wouldn't say it was to the extreme of bullying, but I was definitely picked on, and I was very, very skinny, very skinny. I had no figure, and because I didn't have a mom to teach me about hair and makeup, I didn't care about that stuff in high school. So I had an afro that was this big, and I would have a pick, and I would pick out my hair like that, and I would pat it, and I was very proud of my afro, curly afro, and I was very proud of my, the fact that I would get, you know, I didn't have to spend that much time getting ready, but in high school, I definitely got negative attention for my features, my ethnicity, so that hardened I toughened up in high school. So the adversity of not having self-confidence, that being picked on by my friends, what it did for me was actually a blessing. Because by the time I graduated, I didn't care what anybody thought about my appearance. I didn't care if they didn't like my look. I didn't care as much. I was very smart. I was always in the honor society. I graduated top in my class. And I said to myself, I have to love myself for the way I am. I have to accept myself the way I was born. This is how God made me. But it really took the adversity and being picked on and not being accepted by so many that taught me that lesson. So by the time I got to college, I was very much more confident in my look and less caring about what other people thought about my look. Then I started realizing how many others that I went to school with in college felt the same way. I had Indian friends, Asian friends, Jewish friends, people from all over the world. We would meet, and I started becoming more involved with helping to lift each other. We lifted each other up. So I became very involved with the international students because I realized we all felt like the other. We all felt like the outsiders. We were not accepted. We were marginalized. So it was other women in particular that taught me about how to take care of my hair and how to do my makeup and how to build up your self-confidence and how to accept yourself. It was other women that helped me. And what's so interesting is I keep hearing women say other women have hurt them or marginalized them. So yes, there are women that are like that. But I encourage, we're all here together, I encourage women to help each other. Be your fellow sister, be the mother that needs to step in, be the sister that needs to step in, help each other. I call it, in my community, I have a good old girl network. I live in the South, so that's where it comes from. I developed a good old girl network. That means if we need to help each other as women, when we're having a low day and we're not feeling very good or we're feeling like an ugly duckling, we can call each other and say, you can do it. When I was growing up, when I'd come home feeling like an ugly duckling, it was my father that said, Nina, you are so beautiful. So to the point of the fathers in this audience, the role that you have with your daughters is critical. Because even now, on those days, at 50-something years old, if I have an ugly duckling moment, I still can hear my father's voice saying, Nina, you are so beautiful, and you have the most beautiful eyes, and you have the most beautiful features. Ignore everybody. And so even now I can hear his voice. But even now I can also hear the voices of my my family and friends that are encouraging, that are uplifting. So on the physical part, it took me a while to build my self-confidence. It took me a while to realize that being an other is okay, to be different is okay. As a matter of fact, now in my 50s, I absolutely find beauty in the differences. I find beauty in the other. So when I'm in a room and I'll look around and I'll find somebody that looks different, I'll go and make a point to come and say hello to them, find out where they're from, find out about their culture. I love the differences. I find beauty in people like us that are immigrants. I love to hear our stories, but we have to teach our children who are going through so much that, you know, where there is hate, they have to stand strong in the face of it. They have to love themselves and push back on that, but more importantly, not hate back. We cannot become, we are not a people that has that even in our heart. So in the face of hatred, I like to love back. I pray for my enemies. I love my enemies. It's something we have to do. I do every day. Every day there are people that walk out of the courtroom that give me the evil eye. And at the end of the day, I ask God, I pray for all of them because I know they're, I just ask God to help them grow and expand their heart and expand themselves. We can never be, we can't get in the mud. All right, we have to, I always try to rise above it, always rise above, and always love, no matter what. And I had to learn that through the journey of struggle, through the journey of where I didn't love myself, through the journey of being marginalized. And now I try to be as loving, as inclusive. I give to others what I would have liked to have seen earlier in my life. We have to do that as a community, as a country, because our world is getting smaller and smaller. And where we see divisiveness like we do every day, we have to be the ones to give a kind smile, a welcoming gesture. We have to step in where we see these dark spots, where we don't see love. We individually have to step in and make a change, especially now where so many people are struggling, where so many people are hurting. And you know that. I see it every day. But that random act that you can do will make a difference. It has a ripple effect.
That's great. So I wanted to ask, because time is escaping us, I could spend hours with these ladies, but I want to ask, you know, like just in short answers, if you can take yourself back, okay, many, many years ago, what would you tell yourself? Had I known this, I would have made this decision. So looking back, okay, what would you tell to your younger self about your life and your journey, and what would you tell her to know about life? That's a tough one, isn't it?
It's a tough one, and I think it's going to require a lot of introspection.
That's true.
I am of the firm belief of not looking back. It does not mean that there have not been mistakes I haven't made. It does not mean that there are not things I could have done differently. But I'm all about gratitude, about where I am in my life. My Achilles heel is that I struggle a lot striking work-life balance. I have an incredible husband who's made my career and my life possible. I have amazing children, but at times when I look at the sacrifices that they're paying so that I could do my work, particularly around the last 15 years in Ethiopia, like there was a window in my life where I traveled to Ethiopia for about 6 years, 10 days every month. Every month when we were expanding St. Paul, starting 2010, 2011, I was gone, and those were critical stages of my children's age. So as they now are teenagers and about to go to college, I sometimes look back and say, should I have done it differently? Because I have so many colleagues, when I ask them, can you come on board and help on this project? Can you volunteer in Ethiopia? Can you do this? They will always say, oh, I have young children. And for me, our children are so privileged. They oftentimes have much more than they need, although it doesn't seem like it. And the populations and the communities where we come from and the entire continent is so lacking. I have felt like it was worth the sacrifice, but there are times I look back and say, I wonder how my children will judge me, because being a mother, and especially a professional mother, and striking work-life balance is not easy. But for the most part, I have no regrets.
You have no regrets.
No,
Great.
no regrets.
So Almaz, in short, what would you
Well, I
have done?
think mostly the same for me. As a mother of 2 children, I have also wondered, because I've traveled everywhere around the world, not only, yours was one country going, I was going everywhere the first, when my kids were very young, and probably that's why I really, really love my husband and how supportive he was. And I think my kids are also very privileged, but also they have their own challenges. So you wonder always, could I have done better? But I don't second guess myself. The reason is because to be where I am today, I must have done some decisions along the way where I failed, where I succeeded, where I failed and succeeded, and the same. So whatever journey brought me this far will take me further. So I am very comfortable. Oh, I have to tell you, being 50, once you pass 50, there's something that comes to you and you just feel like, I'm good. So I'm absolutely perfect where I am today. It doesn't mean I am done. I will continue to keep going. I really want to shout out for helping others and really doing good. And if I continue to do that with the kind of things that I have in my life, I'm good. I'm not looking back, but looking forward.
That's great. Judge, in short, what would you say?
I heard her say short, so I'm going to keep it short.
Okay.
All right. Worry less. Worry less. I remember when I would worry about, oh my goodness, how am I going to pay the rent? How am I going to pay my tuition? How am I going to... I was worrying about life. I was in survival mode. Hindsight, God put the right people, put the right jobs, put the right resources right in front of me. So with the benefit of hindsight, I would say, why did I waste so much time worrying when God had it taken care of? So stop worrying. Worry is the absence of faith. Okay? And 2, I remember sometimes feeling very much alone. I'd be working 24/7, many jobs sometimes, and I would feel alone. Lesson, you are never alone. Even though you may feel like you're alone, you are not. So what I've learned now is talk to God every day. Every moment, you are never alone. He is listening and He is answering. I also talk, my mother is my spiritual mother, is Mother Mary. So as a mother, I would talk to Mother Mary, and guess what? She answers all the prayers. So that's the second lesson. You're never alone. Mother Mary and God, they are with you. Talk to them every day and know that you are never alone at any moment. Okay.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Ladies, like I said, I could spend hours with every single one of you. I really, really want to thank you for making the time to come here from your travels, from your all over the world trekking travels, to spend time with us and share from your life journey. So thank you so much.